So big picture, here's our agenda. Of course, welcome, who we are, the dental state of the union. I'm going to hit leadership, knowing your business, systems, and then we have a big give at the end, which I think you're all going to want to stay around for, so don't skirt out, but it's a good one. We think you all will like it. First and foremost, who is Next Level? Next Level's been around for a few years now. We serve dentists all across the United States. We have about 70 active clients, give or take, in 25 states. We have a great, well-rounded team. The vision for our firm is we don't act like we're a consultant that knows everything. We don't like to not know things about your practice and your business. And so we're a collective group, so we all have our different experiences. I'll get to me here in a little bit, but of course, Deb, I just introduced her. She's RDA, practice consultant, and leadership coach. I think she's fantastic with accountability and just overall practice management. So that's Deb. Paula Quinn's a co-founder. She's our clinical coach. She's all about systems. She's the hygienist, all about operations. She's been, I think she spoke for Invisalign for about, 10 years now, BioLays for another 5 years. So she's well-versed and experienced in the clinical world. And then Stefani Sandoval, she's our front office coach. So Paul and I started this company a few years ago, and we're like, we're kind of out of our world with billing and front office. And so we just try to keep creating this team that has really all the answers and the experience that we didn't have. I think a lot of consultants do that. They act like they know everything, and we definitely individually don't know everything, but collectively we try to. Big picture, what we do is practice management, which is overarching consulting. I do a lot of startup consulting, buyer representation. We have a hygiene program, a front office training program, and an exit planning program. So we try to, it's a lot, but each practice is different and in different places of their career, and so we try to develop programs that work. A little bit about me, I'm the business coach, salesperson, business coach. I have a master's in business, went to Hollywood. Anybody, a Buckeye in the room by chance? No? Okay, I know I'm on the other side of the world, but Wolverine, oh, sure. So, 2 Wolverines can exit stage left. No. I did go to the big house, and it was quite the experience. But no, that's all good stuff. We get some clients that are Wolverines, and it has to be discussed, and agreements have to be made on the front end. I've helped about 350 docs get into ownership, so we do a lot of that work. I've sold a group practice that had about 7 practices in the group and 2 private practices. So pretty well-rounded when it comes to acquisitions and starting a practice from scratch. I personally coach about 40 clients, give or take. We do have a fun podcast. It's at dentalunscripted.com. I'm the host. We talk about a lot of good things. So if you're a big podcaster, check that out. And last but not least, we do have an AGD approved status. So that's a little bit about us. So why you might want to listen to me tonight. But you don't have to. All right, so the dental state of the union. I wanted to address this tonight because we're kind of in a weird time where I walk into practices today and they're struggling with profitability. Inflation is kind of happening, as you all know. Lots of things. Labor market's weird. And so I wanted to address the state because I still think that the industry's really good. All right, and we can have a fun discussion about that. If you'd like, at the end of the presentation, we can spitball and go wherever we want with it. But big picture, the dental industry is very good. It's still thriving. Owning a practice still makes a ton of sense. One of those leaders or one of those data points is our lenders still lending, and they're lending very easily. The minute the banks are stopped lending, that's when we might have a real problem. And so what I'm talking about is private ownership. The DSOs, we can have that discussion. We'll touch on that. But private ownership still works, and it's still really, really good. DSOs have slowed down. I told you I sold a group practice. The beginning of this year in 2023, I had a deal with that group practice. It was in the works. They were all excited about it. January, February, they said deal's off. What's going on, Heartland? And they're like, our budget just went in half. So they have cut their buying power in half in like a 6-month period. So why? Because some things have changed in our market. But the point of that is private practices are still doing well, but we got to focus on some things and be better at what we do. And that's the big topic tonight. Value of practices are still holding, so I'm not seeing practices devalue. I'm seeing them hold, so that's good. Supply and demand has changed slightly in this market. Nationally, it hasn't changed much. It's interesting. The Bay Area, for some reason, it's becoming a buyer's market, which is fun for buyers. The sellers are asking big numbers, and they did last year, and this year they might be able to get away with it. So there may be more buyers on the street and less sellers, just as many sellers, and so it's kind of changing the supply and demand dynamic. So if you want to get into ownership, it's a good time to buy, but we're going to address inflation and interest rates, so that offsets it. But it is a good time to buy a practice if you're thinking about it. These are some older statistics because 2021, the source that I used didn't update, but in 2021, after COVID, 90% of practices had higher production, and 46% of those practices had higher profits. But that's not that high either. 46% is not that great. I would hope more had higher profits. So 2022 was a challenge, and we're gonna discuss some of the things that I saw in 2021 that's happening in 2022. And I want you guys to all think about where you work and all of the things that kind of give you pressure on that. So the source here is Kane Waters. Kane Waters is a really, really big CPA and financial firm that specializes in dentistry. They only work with dentists. Okay. This is 2021 statistics. I'm going to give you 2022 statistics. What you see here is general dentist. And by the way, I didn't do a survey. Stupid me. How many GPs in the room? Raise a hand. GP. And then I know I got an ortho crew right here. Is that right? Ortho. Any other orthos? And then I know I have a couple surgeons, endos, perios. Anybody I'm missing? So okay. GP section, ortho section, oral surgery section. Got it. All right, so general dentist, average gross receipts, total overhead, overhead percentage, net income, income percentage. So find your category and pay attention to it. So for the GPs in the room, 37% was the national average. This is national, not regional to this area, national. 37%, 0.74. Ortho, 46.8. You guys did better. Yes. And then oral surgeons, 52.8. Okay, so that was 2021. The colors, yeah. But pay attention to your number. 2022, it changed slightly. So GP, 37.16. Little down. Ortho, 42.6. 42 went down a lot, and then a lot based on statistics. And then oral surgery, 52.9. 52, so about the same, slightly. Okay, so interesting. What's happening again? Kind of alluded to it. Labor costs are a bit crazy. Relying on hygienists, that's going to really affect some things. Like you all know in this room, I think DAs also are a challenge in this market. Some markets have loosened up, and so we're going to address a little bit of that. The other thing I wanted to touch on was inflation. So big picture, inflation, this is really interesting. So based on where the inflation percentage was in the country, currently it's at 8%, which is crazy. It was 5% last year. So it's gone up 3% in just 1 year. But the blue is income, and this is for a a general dentist, okay? General. So the income stayed the same on average. You see that? But inflation really took off. So if income stays about the same and inflation goes up, you're a little upside down, right? So we're in that moment. Inflation includes, based on the way they gave some numbers, it's labor, it's supplies, it's drugs, supplies, and staff. So it's all up, and so that's driving profits down, okay? This is from another CPA firm that's more regional. So I wanted to try to give you big picture nationally from Kane Waters, who's all across the country. Martin & Bircher is a great source and a good CPA firm that's more West Coast. I'm from Seattle, so they're heavy in Seattle, but interestingly enough, Seattle and this area are very similar as far as labor goes and a lot of the statistics that I see. So just in the so from 2019 to 2022, so that's a few years, including COVID, this is how much it's changed. Wages on average are 36% in 2022, has gone up 5% just in that category. This is regional. It didn't show that in the national stuff. Profits down 3%. Again, did you notice that last one was 37 for UGPs in the West Coast, in the Pacific Northwest, and Oregon? It's 35, so two points down over here, and probably because the labor market's a little bit more aggressive here than it is in the rest of the country. Supplies up teeny tiny, which I thought that would be bigger because of inflation, but maybe I'll wait until 2023 and that supply number will go up. Rent, slightly up. I thought that would be up higher. Lab, and then advertising. So what's this mean? This means that you all have to be better business owners. That's the bottom line. Okay, so a lot of things are happening. And DSOs, although are slowing down, I think they're still buying practices. I had some conversations earlier about some purchases. They are still very much purchasing. They're just slowing it down a little bit. To a DSO, higher labor costs shrink their profits, but they don't have to deal with loans. Well, they do, but they don't. I guess what I'm saying is if the profit is 36%, let's say, or 35%, and you got to pay a dentist 30%, that's not much left, it's 5%, right? Because this has what the dentist makes as well. Okay, so there's very thin margins for big groups buying practices, right? And as labor goes up, that shrinks the profit. So it's getting harder for them to do this, but it's also getting harder for private practices as well.
Right.
Yes.
Question: did you say from this accounting firm, the doctor's salary was included in the overhead, or no?
So whenever us professionals or financial people talk about profit, it always includes. It depends on how you do your taxes. Yeah. So if you pay yourself out of payroll, it's that plus income. If you don't pay yourself through payroll, it's all the income. It's everything that's going to you as an owner. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you thinking? Your eyes are rolling, or you're thinking something.
So like my CPA, when he produces my profit and loss,
yes.
he puts the doctor's salary as part of the expenses.
Okay.
And then when he produces data for me to analyze, to compare myself to other practices,
he puts it together. As he should. So, yeah. Good. I'm glad you said that, because this is all part of tonight's theme, is knowing your business better. So good. I'm glad you're seeing that. So when I talk about profit, I'm talking about it all lumped together. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Just like I was talking about, these percentages are all lumped together. And that's a big question that I get is, like, if I'm looking at an acquisition or selling a practice, you have to figure out what the practice is making, no matter how you use the IRS rolls and tax shelters and all the things. You got to quit playing the IRS game and get back to what your business is actually doing, and that's exactly what your financial advisor should be doing, is making it a little bit simpler. But that's the numbers that I'm talking about, are the percentages, the percent that you're making, whether you pay yourself through payroll or you don't. How much is the business making? And that's what those are.
Got it. Thanks.
Good question. Yeah. Any other questions about all of that State of the Union stuff? Do you agree? Is it, for the most part, on point? Anything different in the Bay Area that you want to discuss or say? Am I totally crazy from Seattle and haven't seen any sun in 3 days? I'm joking. It's summertime, but okay. Good. All right. So, yes, why should you own or why should you still own? Again, practice owners can make up to 10 to 20%, and that's a really big range, more than associate. Also, not to mention that you can make more money, you can build equity. So you're building equity and you have an asset to sell. All of you practice owners know it. I didn't get this poll. Who owns? Hands up. Majority. Who doesn't? Higher. I think it's. Yeah, okay. Freedom to practice how you want. I hear that all the time. And all of you practice owners know that. You have autonomy. Big thing. Hire a team that you want and hopefully appreciate their jobs and like working for you. And it's a good environment and you can control that somewhat. Attract patients you want to have. Some people don't have a strategy or a system or an intentionality around attracting the patients you want, but you can. You have control of that if you want to. And then you can create a better work life if you want to take it under control and know your business better. So these are all the benefits. I still think it's great to be an owner. I do. Okay, so leadership. So the big things tonight for me is leadership, know your business, and know your systems. Okay? You orthos, I'm not an ortho specialist. I'll go on record right now. But I want you to try to translate it as I talk about some of my systems in the GP world. Same with oral surgeon. I could probably talk about your guys' stuff better, definitely better than ortho. But ortho, I'm a little bit outside the scope. Paula would be way better. But think about it in your world and try to relate that, okay? But the big things for me that I see a lack of in today's world is a lack of leadership, a lack of knowing your business, and then because you don't know your business, you don't have a handle on the systems. Okay, so that's what we're going to kind of go over and have a discussion around. So let's just start with that. So leadership. All right, this is the piece where you've got a consultant up here, and we're going to talk about some foo-foo stuff. But I am telling you right now, this stuff matters way more than you think it does. So whatever you think you got going for yourself or don't, you need to give it more. And I mean that. Because if you don't have vision, you can't convey that to your team. You can't. And then they don't get it. And then they're just checking in JOB every day, a job. Okay, if they can't get behind and if they can't invest and want to be behind your vision, they're not going to, so don't expect them to. It's just a JOB. Okay, and so, you have to be able to effectively communicate where you're heading with your practice and get your team behind that. So where are you headed? State it, explain it. We are big into sharing numbers. You don't have to share profitability like I did tonight, but you can share numbers. That's really important. I always say to my teams, I've got a little one. I've got a 7-year-old at home. Never forget a big soccer guy back in the day. Not anymore. I know. But Charlotte, my little girl. Okay, so she's playing soccer, and I remember just sitting there like, oh my gosh, this is typical dad that played college soccer, watching a 7-year-old, and they're just like in clumps, not playing the game at all. And I'm like, this is terrible. But the day that the coach told all of them that put on red shirts, put on yellow shirts. Okay, yellow, you kicked the ball on that goal. Red, you kicked. The game changed entirely. They had a goal. They all had a purpose. It still was clumps, but there was every once in a while there was a breakaway, right? And they all knew what they were trying to do. Okay, I always refer to practices and their teams as children, and I don't mean that to be demeaning or that we're above our teams, but I do think there's a lot of parallels in life and just in general how we behave and behavior styles and all that. So where are you headed? can you convey that? Can you get your team behind it? I think our practice owners need more of that. It's what beats the DSOs. The DSOs, everybody knows what they're doing, right? Okay, this book is called The Energy Bus. I know Deb's read it. I've read it a couple times. It starts out really slow, and it's like one of those consulting books, but I swear the back half is gold. The first half is like, oh my gosh, get on with it. But I'm telling you, the back half is really good because it starts talking about, it's a story of this middle manager, and he can't get any results out of his team, and they're walking all over him, and he's got the best producer on his team, but they've got the worst attitude, you know, and the whole array, and it describes that. Oh, did Siri kick in? No. And essentially, you should pick up the book and read it, but essentially, you have to identify your energy vampires, the ones that suck it out, whether they're the MVPs or not, and you have to remove them, and you have to start protecting your team and protecting your culture. And that's so important. And I know the labor market's hard. I know what you're thinking. But we can control some things. We can. And you can be stubborn, and it is painful when you lose team members. You have to retrain them and the whole thing. I get it. I have 40 clients. We have 70 clients. I hear it every single day, and there's some that are crushing, and there's some are not, and there's a reason for it. Okay? So remove the energy vampires, get them out of the way, get clear about your vision, and understand your why. Again, not to get too Tony Robbins on you or Simon Sinek. It's another great book. If you don't understand your why, you got to figure it out. Because if you're just clocking in, trying to make money as a dentist, you're going to get those results, I promise. So understand your why you do what you do. Again, convey that to your team, get them behind it, and I think you're going to have a lot more results, better results anyways. Okay, setting expectations early. So back to Charlotte. Okay, Charlotte doesn't pick up her toy, and I let it go. She's going to just keep doing that, and then all of a sudden it's totally out of control, right? So we go through a process of setting agreements with teams, okay? So it's one of the very first things that we do in our team meetings, and it's really just setting a code of conduct for the office that they all agree. Some practices go to the extreme of after we all come up with it together, they all sign it. And it's things like showing up on time, being prepared, you're not on your cell phone, respect others, great communication, great openness, safety, right? Being able to have hard conversations, addressing the person that you have conflict with and not just running to the owner and crying to them and bitching about them and hoping that the owner has to deal with it. It's all the things. And you get the team to agree to it. And it's kind of funny in this because the teams are usually super quiet. They're like, well, we do that. Yeah, I know. Everybody's perfect and no one leaves their crap at the door. I get it. But get it up on your agreements. Okay, get it up there. Everyone agree to it. And when you hire someone new, that's what they're expected to do. And this is what the team that's currently in place, this is what they're trying to do. And can you do this? Are you good with it? And it's setting the tone, it's setting the expectations early. We're going to get to holding them accountable, but the next thing, so agreements are huge. And the other thing that I will say that is a big miss that I see a lot in practices is as simple as job descriptions. It is absolutely wild to me that folks don't know the tasks that they're actually supposed to do, but they do it every single day. And it's just like, how do we have to really organize? We're years into this and we have to reorganize this? Like, you guys don't know. So every once in a while when you add team members, have very crystal clear job descriptions, okay? And I mean this, like, I know it's super basic, but you get your front office team sat down and say, okay, who does this and who does this? And they're going to be like, oh, we both do that. Well, no one owns that process. No one owns that process. No, we just kind of all do it. She checks it, I check it, and no one's really responsible, but they're all kind of doing it. And what happens is slippage happens. That's exactly what happens. And then you're pissed because you're the owner saying, how do we not follow up with that new patient that called? And they're like, I don't know, we're working our butts off doing this, da, da, da. Right? Same thing in everybody's practice, ortho, oral surgery, GP alike. So setting team agreements and getting crystal clear job descriptions. And anytime you hire someone new, you have to have a very clear job description for them too, right? Obviously. Okay, so now we've shared our vision with our team. We've set expectations and their duties. And now this is the hardest part of ownership, is following through and having accountability. So if you have set the tone, everybody knows what they're supposed to do, everybody agrees that they have to have great attitude, and when someone falls out of line, Charlotte doesn't pick up her toy, put it in the box, I have to do something about it. Because I had the conversation with her and said, honey, you have to do this. You can't leave it like this. And the next time she doesn't, I have to do something about it. We just agreed to all this. If I don't do anything, then all of that went to nothing, right? It all went to nothing. So the hardest part is this last part, and that is having the hard conversations, holding them accountable. You don't have to be a dictator and rude and mean about it. It's just, hey, we talked about this. Like, this is your job. This is, the attitude you're supposed to have. What's going on. And every time, consistency is key. So one of my coined phrases that I always say is get comfortable with being uncomfortable as an owner, especially in the beginning. I don't know how long you all have owned, but definitely younger owners. They're not comfortable with being uncomfortable, and they just start saying things because they want to know. They want to feel like they know everything, right? And it's okay if you don't know something always every time. Be confident in your role and the owner, and hey, I don't have the answer, but I'll get back to you, and that's fine, right? That's totally fine, but you have to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable, and that's big with accountability. Performance plans, of course, and consistency are those huge things. So I don't know if any of that really was digested. I hope some of it, or 10% of it, or whatever. But I can tell you that practice owners are losing because they have a lack of this stuff. Okay, so that's this for folks that don't own. I think I saw a sprinkle of you. You all are going to have to do this, and that's the hardest part. It's super easy to clock in and do your clinical and go home. But then once you become an owner, for that extra 10 to 15, 20% more in pay, you have to deal with the hardest part, and it's this stuff. If you are an owner now and you don't feel like you're great at that, we can help, but start reading books. There's plenty of stuff out there, but it's about execution too. It's about the ideas that I'm giving you tonight. Oh, cool, that sounded great. And then you go Monday morning and someone breaks one of your roles and you don't do anything about it because you're tired, because your husband or wife beat you up all weekend or something. I don't know. Okay, cool. Leadership. Super, super important, obviously. All right. Know your business. Know your business. So I can't, as an ex-banker, someone that survived the corporate world, metrics are everything. One of the things that I realized in all of my corporate jobs before I became a consultant is that most of these sophisticated businesses, the corporate life, it's all about metrics. It's all about pretty decent communication, hierarchy, metrics, accountability, and that's how they drive results. So that's the corporate world, and that's the world I came in. So I roll into dentistry, and there's none of that. There's people can't even read an email or just be professional, and there's this going on. There's no accountability. Nobody knows their business, but dentistry is supposed to be a great industry. Cool. But we're missing this part, and this is why big groups are winning, even though they're slowing down. They are winning, and it's because we are owning this. We aren't owning this. And so I can't overemphasize how you have to know your business. I had a client just yesterday. I said, send me your P&L. It's time to do a P&L review. And she goes, well, how do I pull that out of Open Dental? Open Dental. QuickBooks. It's QuickBooks. It's not Open Dental. So, and this is months into ownership. Months and maybe a year into ownership. I felt like I failed her. I'm like, wait, what? Like, that didn't happen. So we have to own our business. You can't just show up and be an amazing dentist or ortho or oral surgeon. That's not going to get it done. This is going to get it done if you want to be an owner. Okay? Okay. Okay, good. Like, try to get rid of me. Get it. Okay. All right, so we talked about a lot of stuff already that you've heard presentations on, TED Talks, you name it. But again, it's about execution. So everything I talk about tonight, write down the 10% that you digest. And I want to know, before I leave, what you're going to actually execute on. So think about that, because I'm going to come back to that tonight if I have enough time. So that leadership part, we're done with it. What are you going to execute in that leadership section? Think about it. Know your business. So schedule. I'll never forget when I got into consulting a long time ago, not that long ago, before I started Next Level before. And one consultant that had been in the business forever, Deb, she goes, it's all about schedule. And I had no front office really experience at that time. What does she mean? I'm presenting on this tonight, schedule. It's all about schedule. I always get the conversation. I had it tonight, an hour before this, 2 hours before this. Someone wants to open a day. And I'm like, okay, cool. Is Tuesday full? So every dentist thinks that if they build it, it will come. Do you guys know that movie with Costner? If you build it, it comes. That's what, for some reason, our industry thinks that if you just open up a day, it's just you're magically going to have more production. It's not how it works. If you open up a day, you're going to do the same production just with more days and more labor. So if you're finding yourself not productive, opening up a day is not going to change that. The profitability is going down not only because of inflation and the labor costs, it's because we're not managing the schedule tighter. Truth. Okay? And your team's not going to want to hear that, by the way. Hey, let's work harder in the 8 hours that we're coming in. And by the way, we're not coming in that fourth day. You're losing hours. Like, that's the opposite of what your team wants. Right? Absolutely. But that's the fight that you have to fight. I've had startups that called me 2 years ago and said, I'm about to go down. I'm going down. And I'm like, you're doing 4, 5, 600,000? What do you mean you're going down? I'm thinking about our one gal. What do you mean you're going down? You got plenty of revenue. Well, and so I start talking to her. Yeah, I'm open 5 days a week. I have 2 front office people. Already, it's a disaster right there, right? And so you have to figure out what that point is with your team. So we talked about wages. Oop, crazy hands. Crazy hands. What did I just do? Oh, what's happening? This is being recorded. That's what's happening. I was trying to get back to this profit. No, not this one, this one. So profit's going down, and sure, we want to blame the hygienists and the dental assistants on asking for $2 more an hour, $3 an hour, $5 more an hour. That's what we want to do. Damn supplies are higher, Patterson. What the heck, right? That's not it. It's definitely part of it, no doubt, no doubt. However, when someone calls me and says, can I afford $2 an hour for this DA? I posted it for 32 and she's wanting 34. Can I afford it? Well, it's not going to make you bankrupt. No, of course you can afford it. The question is if you use this person, can you lift your top line with her or him? Can this person help you do more in the same day? If you can do more in a day, you can pay people a lot of money. Just don't add a day with no production at that rate. That's what gets you. So schedule, schedule, schedule. And again, woe is us, some of this stuff. But I'm telling you, there's plenty of people doing pretty well in this environment without insurances giving us increases, without the hygienists, all of the things. They're dealing with the same things, and they're doing great. So it's about defining your goal and setting your targets. I won't make you guys all be vulnerable right now. I would if I was being aggressive, but it's 7 and I had a long flight. I want you to ask yourselves, do you discuss your goals with your team? And if you don't, then you're like Charlotte, running around the soccer field in clusters, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. So you got to tell them what we're trying to do here. I'm not talking about profit. I'm talking about, what are we trying to do? Team, this is what we want to do. And I found every single time, and every client says, I don't know. You really think we should talk about our numbers? I'm like, yes. What do you mean? And they're like, well, I don't want them to know how much money I make. Well, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what our goal is. Like, what are we trying to do? And every time I tell those teams, they pull me aside and they say, thank you so much for sharing these numbers. They want to feel part of what you're trying to do, back to the vision. They do. They really want to know. They want to actually make us successful and be part of it, invest in technology, all the things, right? All the things. So, do you have a goal? Is it defined? Have you communicated it? No one blocks schedules. We ask everybody to. No one does it. Why is block scheduling important? Because you're defining a goal, and in that goal, whatever that production is for that day, you're defining that day, and we need 2 crowns. 2 crowns and maybe a couple fillings, and that gets us to our goal. So block that and fill it and reserve it, because if you fill it with a bunch of only fillings or delivering a night guard, you're not hitting goal that day. Move the night guard to the next day. Fill your funnel first. Okay? So that's why you block schedule. And then the front office people say, well, I mean, this is empty, and it's empty. You're going to kill me. I got to fill it. Well, you can fill it a couple days before with stuff, always stuff to fill it. Get your production, hit your production first. So you got to define it, and then you got to give them resources and a plan so that they can do it. All right. Maximize your hygienist. I just talked about hygiene. I'm picking on them. Paula's one of them. Beat her up all the time. She's one of those. She's not. She'll beat the hygienist up for you. But the point is if they're just profi kings and queens, it's not going to pencil at $65 an hour. It's just not. Okay? So what are they doing in perio? Are they doing sealants? Are they doing all the other things? Because I'm going to tell you, perio actually does pencil. So what's your perio percentages? And we're going to get to it. I'm being long-winded, I can tell already. So, but FOAD isn't here, so I can go a little longer. So, okay. So, again, you've got to be intentional. They're producers too. Okay? So anybody that's a producer in your company, oral surgeons, I guess the associates, producers, and you guys, I guess the dental assistants are really important because they're kind of producing for you maybe a little bit. I'm thinking pedo. Anyways, the producers need to produce per hour just like you do. It's going to be a much smaller number, but you got to track that, because if you're not winning, then you got to shift it. Now, in a world where there's not that many hygienists, I have the constant doctor come to me and say, well, I'm just going to do the hygiene then, right? I mean, you've probably heard this. And look, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, for sure. However, in this moment, and I truly believe we're in a bubble right now, and it will shift. I just heard that, like Washington, where I live, they're super strict up there about who can do what. They're voting in that we can get hygienists to fly in and do dentistry or do hygiene from other states. So Washington hygienists can only do hygiene in Washington, for Washington. But if a hygienist in Illinois who's making 25 can fly into Washington and knock down the hygienist at 75, 80 I've seen, it levels the field. So I'm seeing some stuff. I think there's a bubble. And certain state. Don't quote me on California. I don't know California. That's not the case here. But what I'm saying is there's another state where dental assistants are, there's one state or two states where dental assistants are able to scale. So look, we are in a moment. We got to control what we can control. It will figure itself out. Life always does. In the meantime, sometimes having a hygienist take care of your patients, and even if you're at a net zero here, I'll still take your big days, your columns. If I have you stuck in a hygiene chair all day, we're not making money. So sometimes you have to break even so that you can do your bigger procedures. So I can't give you the answers for all your different practices, but that idea of just drawing a hard line and absolutely not, and not paying that and whatever, well, you're only hurting yourself because hygiene's very small amount of 30% of a practice. It's never going to compete with your restorative. Truth. So if you're thinking, I can't afford a hygienist, just try to track it, but it's better to do restorative than hygiene. You always have to go back to that. I mean, that's just brass tacks, right? But you still got to know your numbers and track it. That's what I was kind of getting at with track production. Cut your days if you must. Another client in Washington, he's doing 1.1. He's not making the profit he wants. He can't find a second hygienist. He's been looking. He's got too many hygiene patients, meaning he needs another hygienist, right? And his labor is out of control. Okay? And his CPA is saying, do more. Because his rent's out of control as well. So his labor is high and his rent's high. So you just got to do more to level out the percentages. Mm-hmm. Wrong. Let's drop some insurances and cut back on some of our patients and cut our days back. Solves it. Maybe drop Delta. But you have to, you can control some things, right? You can control some things. It's okay to cut back and make more money in those 3 days than you are over 4 or 5 days. So you have to start thinking differently and take control of the team that you have, the production that you have, the patients that you have, all the things. There's a point where it makes sense, and you got to figure out that point for each one of your practices. Rules of thumb, these are rules of thumb. Sorry, specialists. I always see front heavy, always. Because why is that? Meaning too many people at the front. Why is that? Because they're scary if you had to fire them. No one wants to fire front office. What do they do up there? Like their insurance? How to have that conversation? I couldn't have that conversation, right? I don't know how to do a downgrade. And so they have like this power over you, right? That's why we got Stefani. Stefani's like, no, this is all kinds of wrong, guys. Like, right? It's like she is Miss Attitude, right? She's great, but the point is if front office feels like she's overworked or he's overworked, what are you going to do? You're going to help them hire someone else, right? And so there's this front office power that they have over us, and it's time to take your business back and understand how you can be a little bit more efficient. So just big picture, and again, this is not specialty because specialty has bigger procedures, so these numbers are going to be a little off. 800 to $1 million, you're going to need about a half of a front, another half. So you already have one, about a half for the other, maybe two. General rule, again, I walk in, there's like 100 front office people. I'm like, what are all you guys doing? Well, I do insurance verification only. It's like, what? Okay. Yeah, I'm joking. I'm making a point. But I see it all the time. Another dentist, about 1.2 to 1.5. GPs, sorry, specialists. And then how many hygienists do we need? Roughly 200 patients, active hygiene patients per 1 day of hygiene. So it just kind of gives you like a rough baseline of like, am I heavy in each category? If you reached out to me, by the way, independently, I can give you per category, front, hygiene, back, wage percentages. Everybody talks about these percentages, you know, your CPA everybody's like, oh, for GP, wages should be about whatever percent. It's the big number. If you reach out to me, I can give you the individual for each specialty. So I have that, okay? So that way you could like say, okay, my front is costing me $12,000 a month. My dental assistants are costing me $10,000, and my hygienists are costing, $20,000, right? And then you can actually pull the percentage of revenue and do it, and I can help you with that. But the point is don't be, just because you don't understand exactly what your front does, doesn't mean that we can be controlled by them.
Are you referring to 200 patients for 1 day of hygiene per week?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Yes, sir. Back to that conversation, he had 850 patients, and he worked 4 days. Yes, 4 days. So he needs another hygienist, if you do the math. And I'm like, well, let's just drop some insurances and lose 50 patients, and we're good. And cut it back to 3.5 or 4 days, and we're fine. And you get to bill higher now for the insurances that you dropped. So again, it's okay to lose patients. What's wrong with disrupting and looking at it the opposite way of what everybody's saying? You just have to figure out that point, that break even. Last bullet point here. It's okay to utilize third-party services. This is one of my favorite little tools that when we're at like one of those breaking points, and maybe we need a second person, but we might be a little fatty in that department, like front. You can get people to pick up your phone. I think I overheard you. Might be weird for an oral surgeon, but I'll get to some statistics on missed calls. You guys will be blown away. It's later in the presentation. Who do you think is going to be better at billing? Someone that does billing all day, every day, and it makes it his like entire world, or your front office person who does all the other things and billing? Who's going to be better at that? Well, it's obvious. Jack of all trades, master of none, right? So there are third-party billing companies. We actually do that, but not self-promoting. Use someone else. I don't care. The point is we have a partner that does that. Swiss Monkey does that too. They're great. The point is you can hire them at a percentage, right? A flat fee based on performance. Based on performance. Okay? No payroll taxes. Okay, great. Am I missing something else?
HR issues.
No HR issues. They're not showing up late. It's all performance. What's wrong with that? It's great, right? So you can get to that $1 million practice with one person full-time, and then maybe another person doing all your billing on the side that's not being disrupted by the calls and the patients and the dental assistant pulling you back, right? Does that make sense? So phone services, they do work. Some are better than others, no doubt, but the amount of missed calls is staggering. And so it's okay if you hire someone to never miss a call and maximize that opportunity. That's okay. There's a lot of software and stuff that do automatic follow-ups. I mean, there's some cool technology. You can get a little aggressive with technology. I'm noticing office expense getting a little higher, but it's because of all this cool technology. Deb reminds me all the time that you can go old school and you can still do things old school. And she's right. She's absolutely right. But there are some really cool efficiencies. So my point is to keep overhead at bay. And your office says, I just can't do it all. Okay, I'll take billing off. But I like billing. Well, I can outsource billing. So you need to be a patient coordinator now. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. The biller wants to hide in the back and not have any conversations, right? And who knows if they're efficient with their time or not. They're usually not. It's amazing how many claims she processes in an hour. And then a client says, well, we're going to take our billing back. And I'll be like, so full time, you're going to give like 40 hours or 32 hours a week? Stefani did your office in two hours like a day. Like it didn't make sense, right? So yeah, go ahead.
Other than billing, what other services would you say are?
So insurance, I'm not, as a general, here's some services, right? that you may consider. It might not be right for your practice. You just got to think about it. Insurance verification is an expensive one, but it's a good one to outsource. You can always do that all day long remotely. Billing, of course, naturally. Picking up the phones. Outsource services. Those are the big ones. It's all front.
HR.
Well, of course, HR. Yeah.
Please don't do that yourself.
Yeah. In this state, for sure.
Especially in California.
Mm-hmm.
Do the opposite? What would you never third party out? What would you
Ooh. The opposite of what I wouldn't outsource. Well, I would say in a lot of cases, outsourcing billing in situations where, oh, I'm going to move to Montana, but I'll still do your billing 2 days a week. Okay, so like someone's in your office for years and years and they know all the patients and they're going to go have a baby and not come back or something, right? But they'll still do billing while they have their baby. Okay, like it's situations like that where there are not professional companies that specialize on that, and it's just some rando that you found at maybe some CDA event that said they're amazing. Go with a company. Yeah, you might get a little better deal percentage, but they're probably logging in half the time doing other things. I would say
Anything with your patient direct interaction. You have to.
thank you. Back to billing, I wouldn't, in some cases, I wouldn't have your biller do patient collections, just insurance claims. Imagine your biller from Montana calling your patient saying, you owe this. That's weird.
distinction?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you think of anything else?
I mean,
Let me-
HR and the direct patient interaction.
Yep. Yep.
I say go old school. I always say it's still best if you're having a problem with cancellation. Pick up the phone, call those new patients, make it,
Yeah.
2-minute conversation just to have a connection. Because they probably have 6 appointments. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll make one of them somewhere.
Take a picture of this. I don't know if you've seen for every current, of course, 87% of your AR should be sitting in current. This would be considered really healthy, but what we strive for as a billing company. 9% 30/60 and less. I see it the opposite a lot. If you have a lot of payment plans like ortho, you're going to have a lot sitting at 90, and you got to understand your business a little bit about that. I would pull those out, those payment plans out, and then analyze your AR without that, so that you could understand what it looks like. Not only the percentages, but just general rule, 1 month of production collections should be about the total of your ARs. 1 month's worth. So if you did 1.2 million, simple math, a million, 100,000 every month for 12 months is 1.2. I would want your ARs to be 100. That's 1 month's worth of collections, right? It's general rule. But then of that 100,000, it would be broken up into those percentages. Collection rates, something we didn't address yet tonight, but it's going to come key to the presentation is this. This is ours tonight. I'll explain that in a minute. It's got a lot of good industry averages, but this is one of those. Collection rates on average should be 101, bottoms 95, and tops 106. So this is of your production, how much are you collecting? And then also, again, back to knowing your business, adjustments. Oh, adjustments.
Can you explain the collection rate again?
You wouldn't get that because you're an oral surgeon. Seriously. So insurances, okay? This has to do with fee schedules and production, and then how much you actually collect. So missed buildups. Forgot to give me some more examples. Like you building up a crown was missed, or didn't charge for fluoride. All those things get you over 100%. So if your production is 100,000, you'd collect 101,000 in this case, because people miss some things in the billing process, or insurance paid more. That happens actually, if you can believe it.
But wouldn't that mean?
Orthos are different too. But go ahead.
In general, shouldn't your collection be a couple of percent, like 98% of your production? That means you're growing.
So this.
That's different?
So each month you produce your net production. Let's back up.
Maybe that's ortho.
No. Let's back up. So there's production and then there's collection. So what you produce and then what your front office collects. That's what we're talking about, okay? And there's a lot of practices that don't have their fee schedules right, and that's where I'm going with adjustments. But essentially, if all the fee schedules are not in your software correctly, and not only the fee schedules correctly, but also the patient's specific plans. Help me if I'm really screwing up here, Deb, because now I'm outside my water a little bit. We talked about it. We're a collective. I don't know everything. But if I come in and I have this plan with Cigna, I have a specific fee schedule. If that's not in the software and you quote me a crown, that software will know down to almost a penny what I should pay and what the insurance is going to pay. If any of that's messed up, okay, at all, the patient's either going to overpay, or the insurance is going to overpay, or it gets all wacky. So that's how you can get over 100%, is because how am I doing with that, Deb? So essentially, missed procedures not billed, and inaccuracies with the insurance, basically, and how production's posted. Yeah.
So you can get over that because a lot of times especially if somebody's got two insurances or medical.
That's right.
We
More payment.
right?
That's
So
right.
There's going to
That's why the top are.
be a refund
That-
somewhere in there to get it back to right. I mean, there's sometimes where we get more than we expected.
Yeah.
That's not very common. But for an oral surgeon, we're at 87. That would be pretty hard with dual insurances and medical denials and
So,
sorts of things we go through.
so GPs have to deal with insurance way more than you guys do, and ortho. And so, just big.
Can't bill the second until the primary.
Correct.
Yeah, there's all kinds of rules. That's right.
And we have
Medical.
Yeah.
That adds.
So dental intelligence, I'm going to get to it. It's a software that we use in our practice management. This company has 10,000 dental offices that sync with their software, and these statistics come from 10,000 all dental practices, but mainly GPs. Okay, so this is like the best statistics ever, because 10,000 dentists, that's their whole game plan. They're a performance dashboard, and so that's where these are coming from. Just so you know. All right, so back to this adjustment. So adjustments, when you guys pull your daily reports and you do an adjustment report, okay, the adjustment report should tell you a story of what's going on in your practice. What discounts were given, what sweet deal you gave somebody. It's an adjustment, it's a discount. If you pull your adjustments and it's a massive adjustment, it doesn't tell you much. It's probably because your insurance fee schedules are all messed up in the system. You can't manage, let's say you do 100,000 in production a month, and let's say your adjustment are 10,000. You didn't give 10,000 discounts, dollars worth of discounts. It's probably because the insurance schedules are wrong in your system. And so you can't manage your business. You can't see the discounts your front office person is giving because there's too many adjustments. So if you have too many adjustments, there's something going on. Your software needs cleaned up. But again, back to knowing your business, it's hard to schedule a goal because it's all fake money. It's like monopoly money, right? You can't see the real discounts. We talked about that. Confusing treatment plans for the patient, definitely. And then posting incorrectly, which affects associate pay, which is even scarier if any of you associates have been kind of underpaid, or maybe you don't even know, if they post to the wrong production or collection, you're getting a discount on your pay because you're probably paid on a percentage of production. So adjustments are everything. If they have too many adjustments, you have to get to the bottom of that. Okay? Know your business. This stuff actually matters. All these silly reports that are in your software that says daily reports and you print them all, it all actually means stuff. Okay, marketing. We were going to get to this, so let's get to it. Back to the missed calls. There's a call service company that we do suggest outsourcing in a lot of cases, because if you're only working 3 days a week, you can't miss the calls the other days, right? So you got to have someone picking up the phones always. That company that we refer reported that 33% of all new patient calls are missed, which makes me throw up because you spend so much money trying to get those patients to call you. So much money. Mailers, pay-per-click, SEO, social media, all the things. And 30%, a third of them don't get picked up. Okay, so now we're down to 66% is the pie now, right? So 100, we missed a third, now we're to 66. So of that group, a third of those get scheduled. So essentially, out of 10 new patient calls, on average, 30% of them make it on your schedule. That's it. Sad, right? And they listen to every call. These are probably, thousands and thousands of calls, right? And this is dental specific, folks. This isn't just rando call services. So back to why you might want to hire a third party answering service. They're probably better at picking up the phone than all of you, because this is all they do. They're like professionals at building rapport on the phone. They're smiling when you pick up the phone. Yeah.
You can have a hybrid system though, right? So it's
Sure. Oh, yeah.
taking your own calls during your day.
I would actually rather your front office picking up the phone when they can, just for a lot of patient engagement in general. But when they're not, again, I get if my front office person, if I cut her back to 3, like what? Who's going to pick up the phones? Well, there's a lot of companies that will do this stuff that's way less.
Don't send them home with a phone.
Yeah, no. Back to outsourcing.
Please don't do that.
Don't
That's
send
all.
someone home with a cell phone.
Don't send their.
No. They'll miss it anyways.
They're on the clock.
That's right. So that's like my statistic with marketing tonight. Also with marketing, in the topic of knowing your business, track everything. I went to marketing school at Ohio State. It's a really good school for marketing anyways. That was my concentration. I did some marketing consulting after college. Track everything. Don't just pay somebody to do marketing. Know what's working and know what's not. Every time I do a transition, and I've done a lot of them, I ask the seller, what are you doing that's working? And they don't know. And I'm like, okay. So the buyer doesn't have that. It's always mind-blowing how nobody really knows what's bringing in those calls. And the marketing companies, they're in the business of staying on retainer. They are. They're in the business. The SEO is a monthly. Pay-per-click, that's monthly. Mailers, definitely big money. Social media is a big one, monthly. That's good monthly money, right? And if you call them and say, what's my ROI? They're going to say, I got you 10,000 impressions this month. What the hell is an impression? I need a call. I need a phone call, right? So track everything. And the words that don't mean anything, just say, what do you mean? Quit using marketing stuff. How many new patients did I get, right? And then you could even take it further. We do this with some of our clients. Further, how much production came from those new patients. That's next level. We track everything with our startups, specifically startups, because every patient matters for a startup. You guys have bigger practices, so I was talking about that slippage. We're going to get to systems next. I'm almost there. But it's amazing how the little things add up to really big things. I was talking to you about financial planning. It's the same thing. It's the littlest things every single day, and they add up to massive things. I'll never forget, I won't use his name in Washington. He's failing, just not doing good. He's sold since. it makes me sad because he didn't make it through. But I gave him 2 months of free consulting because I really felt bad for the guy. I get on the phone, or I go into his office, and I'm pulling all of his statistics and stuff. And I start talking about fluoride. Okay, whether you believe in fluoride, holistic folks, I don't know, whatever, throw all that out. Fluoride. And I'm like, dude, your fluoride percentage is awful. And he's doing his own hygiene, another rule that he broke, okay? And we're on him about fluoride. I'm like, dude, you got what's going on? And he got frustrated, and his wife was on the phone. She's frustrated too, by the way, because he's not making any money. And pretty soon he was just like, forget it. Let's move on from this fluoride thing. Like, Jesus, it doesn't even matter. And I'm like, Dr. C, I'm like, if you got to industry average on fluoride, it pays your rent. And he was behind in rent like 3 months. I mean, so the littlest things added up to a lot of patients, a lot of visits, is a lot of money. And fluoride's just one of those little things. It's x-rays. We're going to get the system, sorry. So the point is track everything, production per, I digress. All right, retention. So everybody talks about marketing. How many new patients did I get? But you'll see on this, under patient growth percentage, patient growth. What's patient growth? Patient growth is not how many new patients. Patient growth is how many patients went inactive this month, how many patients went into 18 months into inactivity, so left or went into inactivity. Those are the minuses. New patients in the practice are pluses, and then reactivation when your front office calls and gets people back on the schedule, that's another plus. So you got 2 pluses and 2 minuses equals growth. You with me? So everybody talks about, I got 30 new patients. Dude, 42 walked out the door in inactivity this month. What are we doing here? Quit spending 30 grand a month on, marketing, and let's button up your systems and reactivation. Sorry, specialist, but not really the same. Sorry. But new patient growth there. Pre-appointment rate, we're going to get to it here in a minute. Patient growth, I just talked about. Enrollment, this is something the software tracks. Treatment dollars accepted. This is interesting. Every client we talk to, 100% people say yes to my treatment, 100%. Okay, that's not true. So we track it by the dollar, and we track it by a couple different ways. But the best way to do it is how many dollars did you diagnose, and how many of those dollars got accepted. So everybody's like, I saw 10 patients and 10 said yes, that'd be 100%. That's about it. But what we're tracking is out of those 10, we diagnosed 100,000, and 100,000 got accepted. That would be 100%. But if only 20,000 get accepted out of the 100, that's only 20%. You with me? So treatment percentage 40%. This shows that. It's the very last one, 2021, 2022. So 40% is the average. If you're a big dog, you're at 60%. And if you're 24% if you're in the bottom. If you're one of those doctors that puts multiple treatment plans in, then the amount diagnosed is overinflated. So clear out the old treatment plans so you can actually track this stuff. Yeah? Your front office needs to do that. More things the front doesn't do. Same day treatment, 29%. Okay? Okay, systems. This is the landing. This is the landing. So now leadership. Know your business. So again, if I have time, what are you going to implement with knowing your business better? Just be pulling daily reports. I'm going to pull my reports and actually understand them. It's not just pulling them. It's reading them and asking the front, what's this adjustment? Why is that? Just ask. Figure out what your reports say. And if it never makes sense, it's probably because we got something to clean up. So focus on something one at a time and work on it. Intentionality. Okay, systems. So again, systems prevent slippage, right? Prevent things slipping through the cracks. All those little things definitely do add up. So here's some. There's a lot more in all of your worlds and your world, and there's a lot more, but it's kind of all over the place. But follow-ups. I would say that most practices do a terrible job of follow-ups, just terrible, whether it's a new patient follow-up or hygiene follow-up or even worse, treatment follow-ups. Treatment follow-ups should be their number one priority, definitely in your worlds. But in GP, it's like everybody wants to focus on hygiene reappointment or appointment, but what about the 3 people that walked out that you diagnosed Crohn's? Like, what happened to them? I guess we'll see them in 6 months, right? So no one's following up with the patient that said, I got to talk to my wife about it, which is totally a put off, by the way. They don't got to talk to their wife. They could make the decision right now. I mean, generally speaking, right? So who's following up? And how are they following up? And I bet you I know how they're following up. They have a little piece of paper, and it's 100 million miles long with 100 names on it. Yep, and then they've got the margins, right? Called, left voicemail. Oh, someone, you need help? Perio chart? Okay. And then 4 hours later, oh, did I call? Yeah, I thought I just called him. Yeah, I called. Okay. And then one of the 19 front office people that work for you, they're like, oh, I've got a minute. Oh, will you pick this up? Right? Now she's calling. She calls the first person. You just called me. This is the recare system we're talking about, right? Or the follow-up system. Like, what? So in business world, when I worked for the bank, I worked for B of A for a while, I worked for a market company, like we have CRMs, they're customer relationship management, right? And it's like dialed in. Like you get a lead, you follow up with it, you have your notes, like it's your whole world when a lead comes in the follow-ups. And for some reason, in the dental world, it's like, this is a list. Here, you take it. And there's margins. I mean, and then some people do, yes, the Post-its. I love there's like the 50 Post-its. All right, what's the system? Like, oh, right there. That doesn't work. Okay, and so then the probably the best one that's not good, but the best one is like moving the blocks to the day to follow up. You know, on the schedule they move and they have 50 people. Like at least there's like kind of a system there. It's a mess. So the reality is if you're diagnosing somebody and someone says they need a follow-up, you make a follow-up. Dental Intel does that. You don't have to use Dental Intel, but there are some really great systems for follow-ups. And the system should, about follow-ups, consistency is key. So it's not about how many calls you made today, but it's about how many times did you try that person, right? Just like me, I'm busy. You call me today, I miss your call for sure. Deb's laughing because she calls me all the time, and I probably miss her call, right? But if she calls me again later on the day, I'm not suggesting you call your patients the same day, but the point is to get me, you got to hunt me down, just like millennials and zennials and whatever eels. I mean, the younger you get, the more they're going to be. That's how it is. So we got to hit them with texts, we got to hit them with emails, we got to hit them with calls. We got to do it often, right? Every other week. Text, try both. You have to legitimately work your list. What'd you say? Drones? Yeah, drones work. So, like, that's opportunity, folks. And if you're not busy enough, that's the solution. It's the truth. If you're really busy, then you're fortunate enough to have slippage and you're fine. Okay, cancellations and confirmation. This whole system needs to be dialed in. Deb and I did a lot of research. We found 15% was the average, whether it's cancellation or no-show combined. That's a real problem today. In today's world, COVID, for some reason, put this thing on crack big time. People are just not showing up, so you got to confirm. You have to stay up. And if you call them, email, text consistently, regularly, and you still can't get them, take control of your schedule, book somebody else, and when that patient comes in, you say, oh, I literally called you 4 times, I texted you twice, and I sent you an email. Is there a better way to get a hold of you? We filled your spot. Take control of your schedule, back to schedule. You have to take control. Forget them if they're not going to do that. It's a loss of peanuts compared to what it costs you, but that. X-ray protocols, treatment planning, all these things need really, really tight systems. So we have some solutions and ideas if you have any issues with those in particular. Okay?
Dental software is not helping with this system?
They're not great. They're not great on some of these things, no.
Ortho, a lot of them.
Are they good? They're just not. Mm-mm.
New business, who wants to go into
Systems business, that's right. Okay, big give. Big give. This is the big give. We're at the end. Okay, so I talked about Dental Intel a lot. I don't get any kickbacks or weirdness from them. But it is a great software, and we use them. So Next Level can actually put Dental Intel on all of your systems for free. You don't have to pay anything. We get it for 1 month. We could probably push them for 2. So if you want to know any of your numbers and you want to dig into some of this stuff, we'll just do it for you, and we'll give you a free analysis to do that. Okay? We either will record it, like go through your practice on Dental Intel and record it and send it to you and say if you want to book an appointment, great, or if you want to do it with us personally, we're happy to do it. No hard selling, promise. This is a San Mateo benefit. It truly is. I promise. But the big give is, one caveat. Dental Intel connects with Open Dental, Dentrix, EagleSoft, and a couple others. I think Fuse and something else. So the big 3. SoftNet? Did someone say SoftNet?
I'm not sure, but I'm just...
I think maybe SoftNet. They're adding some, but the big 3. Okay? So if you let us do that, and we'll give you all this great information about your own practice, the person that scores the highest on pre-appointment rates, so the very first one, the practice the highest pre-appointment rate will get 1 year of their San Mateo dues paid for.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Now, consolation prize. The practice that has the worst a nice bottle of wine from Deb and I to start drinking because it's that low, probably. So, consolation prize. You got to do something for the worst and the best. Of course, right? Of course. So pre-appointment rate, folks, just so that you all know, is, and if we can't use Dental Intel on your software, we'll figure something out. Maybe we can do an old school report and try to longhand it or something, because I don't want to discriminate if you don't have one of the 3 big. But pre-appointment rate essentially is of all your active patients, how many of them have an appointment on the schedule. That's what pre-appointment rate is. Reappointment is if I'm in the practice today and I get reappointed before I leave. Reappointment. Pre-appointment is I'm an active patient and I have a appointment, whether that's treatment or hygiene. It's just a appointment. Yeah. Dental Intel and us and other people, 18 months is our number. A lot of people say 2 years. I think that's a little too far. 12 months is way too short. 18 months. Yeah.
I think EagleSoft does automatically 24 months unless you set it differently. Dentrix is 18 months.
That's right. The QR code is on here as well. So if you are like, I want to do that, and that slide's not up, right there, okay? And then this is a pretty cool profitability formula. Oh, sorry, I'm messing with the sound. To increase profits, it's very basic. We were talking about systems. If you increase these visits and you increase production per visit and you increase your collection, and these are all the things, systems and things you can do, and you lower your overhead, and these are some things you can do, it increases profit. So these are like little systems to get your gears thinking about how to increase visits, production per visit, and collection percentages. Okay? Upcoming events, I plug. So we're presenting at the Associate to CEO event. And then we will also be at the CDA booth. Come say hi. We usually do some fun things, but those events are so boring. So you just come over and say hi. We're not going to sell you. Just come over and say hi. 11:35. Oh, and I think podcasters, if you don't own a practice and you're thinking about startup or an acquisition, scan that bad boy. But you could find us on any of those channels. And then that's it. That's it. Cool? Okay. We're tapped out, or we do Q&A? Are we done? Done? It's up to you all.
Now we could do Q&A.
Just a minute or so, or 5 minutes. We're available, but any questions about what we talked about tonight? I guess if I had the time, I would go around and I'd say, hey, what are we executing? Right? What are we focused on? And even if you're an associate, I challenge you to think about your systems, learn those systems. I'm looking at you two. Do you guys own? You guys both? You own? You own. Who doesn't own? Just you three. I challenge you to learn the systems. You don't own it, I know. But a crazy statistics, like 60% of dental associates will own at some point. And what better breeding ground or training or experience can you get by working for amazing people like you work for him? But I bet you if you think about a system that's broken, he'd love to hear about it. Heck yeah. So, right? You work for him? That's right. And him? Okay. So I guess the point that I'm develop a system. But tighten your systems. Tighten your systems. Sorry, orthos. I did the best I could. Yeah. Questions, concerns, things you want to discuss, share with the group? Anything else? Okay, you're going to all be